Good morning to your friends. Hope you are doing well. And welcome on in to a Friday, November 14th. Hope you're doing great. And there is a lot going on. We have a great poll up today. A Daily Dan poll on YouTube. These visa programs are in the news, and it is my contention. I don't think it's some great light bulb moment. I think it's obvious. But I think this visa situation, this visa topic discussion is going to be very big heading into especially the presidential election coming up here in a couple of years. And so I asked on the Daily Dan poll, how important is this visa issue to you? You know, the government allowing all of these loopholes for these companies to abuse the visa system, which means that ultimately fewer and fewer Americans are being hired for jobs in the STEM and tech industries, and they're shipping in a bunch of dudes and women from India and China and Pakistan and all of these other countries, and really getting in the way of our younger adults' success as they try to make their way in the world. So how important is this to you? And Mason, how did we frame the question, and what are people saying?
Pretty simple. How important is the visa issue to you? The top answer is extremely important with 68%, somewhat important with 23%, and not important at all at 9%.
I think this is going to be a very big deal. I think this is going to be the illegal immigration type issue that we saw in the last presidential election, because here's the deal. And I think this is going to be a very big deal in the presidential primary, perhaps. So was playing audio from Marjorie Taylor Greene because she now has a piece of legislation, and what she basically wants to do is she wants to clean up these visa programs, and she wants to ban the visa programs, close all those loopholes, and basically reset and start over, giving a slight a pass to the medical industry for a time. And so she is talking about this, and I think that this is something that does need to be discussed. Here's one more audio bite from Marjorie Taylor Greene on why she wants to protect the jobs of Americans.
My bill will help mitigate the shortage of doctors and nurses in our country, the shortage that we face, while at the same time serve as an off-ramp from our reliance on foreign workers by allowing us time to fill our residency programs with American doctors. Now, this will completely end the H-1B visa program in all other sectors in the job force and in the workforce. This is America first. It's time to put American citizens first instead of foreigners first. And this has gone on, and this has been an abuse for far too long. Americans deserve a future. They deserve a chance. And I believe Americans are the most talented people in the world, the most creative, and I want them to have their American dream. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And you'll notice that as people talk about this, they're throwing in there that they believe that the American people are the most talented. That is, I believe, a swipe at Donald Trump. We talked about that yesterday and the day before. No need to relitigate that. But I looked up the top visa issuers here in the state of Tennessee. I was surprised at some of these. St. Jude Children's Hospital, that's right, out in Memphis. And again, it's because of the doctors and the medical staff that we are short on, which is, again, why Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying that she's going to give a brief pass to the medical industry, because we do have, as I mentioned in the previous hour, we do have a shortage of medical personnel, whether we're talking about doctors, whether we're speaking about nurses and so forth. And so, obviously, if we are depending on doctors from India and China and other places, well, we have to have those doctors if there's not enough doctors. But as we said in the previous segment, if you're just joining us very quickly, let me retrace that we had a study, I think it was in 2023, she said, where we had 9,000 doctors who needed residencies, and they didn't have any residencies. They weren't able to find a residency, yet we had 5,000 foreign students, foreign doctors coming in and taking those residencies literally from American students. And that should anger you. It angers me. So I like where she's going. There's probably some industries that are going to be like, holy crap, we have to have these visa programs in place. I'll let all of that shake out. But who are the top visa issuers in the state of Tennessee? St. Jude Children's Hospital out there in Memphis. Sam, this perhaps will not surprise you. You used to work at Amazon, FedEx as well. Vandy is on the list for education, and also Vanderbilt University Medical Center for medical and clinical specialists as well. So
the crazy part is I know that those visas for Amazon, those are going to the kind of higher up, not obviously anything super executive, but they're the cushy salary jobs.
Right.
That, you may need a computer cert or something to do, but they are the nicer ones than working in the warehouse or doing the actual delivering.
But in your perspective, are there American people that cannot do the jobs that Amazon is utilizing for visa holders?
No, I 100% believe that we could have Americans in those roles.
Right.
And instead of visa holders. But again, as you have pointed out, it's cheaper to import it.
Mm-hmm. So here's the deal. I hope that with the visa programs, and again, I said earlier, this is why we can't have nice things. We can't have nice things because the government is allowing these corporations to abuse the system. Somebody actually asked me in the super text line, somebody said, I'm trying to figure out, Dan, I'm trying to figure out who you're blaming. Are you blaming the government or are you blaming the corporations? I'm blaming both. I'm blaming the government for allowing the loopholes, and I'm blaming the corporations for utilizing those loopholes to hire foreign workers. And so if we are going to deal with a system, a visa system that is going to be perpetually abused, and it is going to work against the success of our young adults, then we've got to reset the whole damn thing and rebuild it. You got to focus on Americans. You've got to plug the holes with foreigners, period. End of story. But focus on Americans first. So, for example, let's just go down the road that I was talking about earlier. If you've got 10,000 residencies, right? Let's say you've got 10,000 openings for residencies for doctors graduating from medical school. So if you've got 8,000 doctors, American doctors, that are applying for those residencies, then absolutely, those 8,000 should get those jobs. The 8,000 Americans should get the residencies. You got 2,000 left. Plug those holes with people from other countries, if that's what you need to do. And then figure out a way, eventually, to plug every hole, every residency with an American. I don't want foreign doctors in our country taking the place of American doctors. And that is precisely what is happening. And that is precisely why I applaud Marjorie Taylor Greene for what she's doing. And again, I realize there's going to be a lot of conversation and there's going to be a lot of industries that are going to be screaming that they can't get by without their visas. She's starting the conversation, which is a lot more than I can say for what is going on right now. I think that this visa issue is going to be very important for folks heading into the midterms and beyond, well beyond into the presidential election of 2028. So Ron DeSantis, I'm just going to go through three of the people right now that are out there talking about how we got to get tougher. We got to get tougher on the visa situation. So Ron DeSantis has been saying for a long time now, as governor for the state of Florida, that the visa programs are out of control. He has signed an executive order in Florida to make state universities stop their use of visa programs. But when Ron DeSantis was in Congress, House of Representatives, of course, he voted to expand visa programs. So that's one of those that's not going to age well. Now, can I just say this? When it comes to these bills and legislation that are in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, because they attach these stupid things, like, for example, the $500,000 for senators whose data was breached. That was complete and utter BS, absolute BS, that those 8 senators, one way or another, that ended up in the legislation. So they couldn't hold up the government being funded and getting open again. So they were forced to vote for that and vote in the affirmative, even though we were all disgusted by that. So I don't know, without doing a hardcore deep dive into the circumstances where DeSantis did vote for a visa expansion there at the when he was a member of Congress, I don't know if it was attached to anything or what. That's all for them to explain. Marco Rubio, of course, Marco was part of that Gang of Eight way back when that called for immigration reforms 13 years or so ago. Everybody's talking about how Marco Rubio is going to be a great presidential candidate or a great running mate for J.D. Vance. So what did Marco Rubio vote? He was part of that Gang of Eight. And part of that was, and it was Gang of Eight immigration reforms during the Obama administration. And so part of that was an H-1B visa expansion. So again, not going to age well, including limits on numbers. They wanted to limit the numbers that had these H-1B visas, but ultimately it called for an expansion of H-1B visas. They were trying to tackle fraud and abuse within the program. And remember, this is years ago now. This is, again, 12, 13 years ago. In other words, we've had problems with fraud and abuse in these visa programs for years. It is in the past, 5 years or so, that it's really gotten out of control. And it is exacerbated by all of these college students doing what they were told, taking STEM classes and taking STEM majors and getting their degrees in science, technology, and engineering and math, only to find out that some cheaper guy from India is coming in to take his job. So this is a very big issue. Now, I had Mason. I tasked Mason with looking up J.D. Vance. When he was in the Senate, what did J.D. Vance, how did he vote when it came to visa programs? Was he voting to curtail those programs, or did he vote to expand visa programs?
You went back and forth depending on the topic. Like one towards H-1B, there's no recorded vote, but the one towards like Ukraine with stuff like that, he was against.
Okay.
There are a couple where he's for as well, but it's very back and forth.
And here's the thing. You may have voted for something, back 10, 15 years ago, and it looks terrible now, but maybe for whatever reason, it made sense to you when you made that vote. I can't think of one, but I'd be willing to bet there's an opinion or two that I've had over my many years of hosting where I look back on that opinion now and it was like facepalm, what the hell was I thinking? I can't think of one, to be honest with you. I mean, you folks that have been listening for a long time, you could probably tell me when I've had a flea-bitten opinion that turned out to be totally wrong. That does happen to everybody. When you're in Congress, though, those votes are recorded. And right now, some of those votes to ultimately expand or continue to allow these visa programs and really not stopping the fraud and abuse and corruption in the visa programs, going back, 12, 13 years. And we still have these problems today. And it is really targeting our young adults. So when we have an entire generation of young 20-somethings and they've graduated school, they're riddled with this college debt, and you have the politicians not doing a damn thing, and you have this perception, real or otherwise, that Donald Trump is saying that we don't have talented people in America that can take these jobs. Yeah, they're going to become disengaged. They're not going to come out and vote, and they're just frankly going to stew in their anger that they cannot buy a home, they cannot start a family. And what is it? It's not only illegal immigration, but also these visa programs that are getting in their way of success. So go take the Daily Dan poll, if you would, on YouTube. How important are these visa programs to you when you go to vote in the midterm elections and certainly in the presidential election coming up in 2028? That's going to be a big deal in the primary. So I can tell you right now that for me, whether or not we are able to really do what Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about doing, which is cleaning up and locking down and eliminating these visa programs that are horrifically corrupt. at the corporate level, and our government is allowing it to happen currently. Trump is trying to clamp down on it, but of course there's lawsuits. We need to fix this, and we need to fix this right away. And if we don't, then I fear that it is the Republicans that will ultimately pay a price. I just saw this. I consider myself, fairly adept at staying up on things. I missed this in my morning show prep. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein wrote a disturbing email to himself before he committed suicide. Air quotes. So what did he say to himself? Now, I don't know when this came out. I was on the Daily Mail earlier, but apparently the disgraced pedophile, as he was spiraling, because he knew that he was more than likely going to have to go to prison, I guess he wrote a paranoid email to himself months before his death, rambling on about Donald Trump. Now, remember the coverage that we did yesterday, right? Where you had CNN, MSNBC, mainstream media really trying to sell this story that Jeffrey Epstein wrote about Donald Trump in emails, which was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he did, but what the media was trying to do was trying to say that, Epstein was connecting Donald Trump to doing, bad things with little girls. I mean, but the emails didn't say anything like that, not even close. It was all a bunch of innuendo. But I think one thing that we learned from yesterday's coverage and yesterday's release, the day before yesterday, this week's release of all these documents, is that Jeffrey Epstein was trying to destroy Donald Trump. He was talking to the New York Times, saying, I've got a photo of Donald Trump surrounded by a bunch of girls in bikinis in my kitchen. Do you want it? Well, that doesn't mean anything. And now this. He's saying, this is what the Daily Mail says. This was an email sent to himself in February of 2019. Now, how awful must this have been for Jeffrey Epstein? And I hope he's so evil, he's so perverted, he's so disgusting. Clearly, he was in some sort of a spiral. And that's why he was trying to destroy Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And he's getting ready to go to prison. And he was always angry, Jeffrey Epstein was always angry that Donald Trump disconnected with him years prior because he was a creeper. And he was pilfering girls from Mar-a-Lago. So this is what the Daily Mail says. Redacted, name, whatever. Worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period, Epstein wrote, 6 months before he was found hanged at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. But you know what he also says? He also says he never got a massage. It's what the article says. Epstein appeared to be spiraling as he was facing new charges of abusing dozens of girls following a bombshell investigation by the Miami Herald in 2019. It came more than a decade after he was convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution in 2008. The president, I should say the pedophile, appears to downplay the significance of his abuse to victims, writing this. The girls returned to the home multiple times. I probably should have read this before I went down the road. I can't say what he wrote next, but he says most of them were in their 20s. So they don't really understand why he wrote this email to himself, but he did. The following day, he forwarded the exchange to the author Michael Wolff, who was writing an expose on Donald Trump at the time. And as he sent this information over to Wolff, Jeffrey Epstein said, have fun. So again, we have a story here where there's just, I guess, a bunch of rambling innuendo from Jeffrey Epstein, because he knew, again, not to belabor the point, he knew that he was going to prison. He knew that he was going to go to prison, and the guy that he wanted to bring down with him, Donald Trump, is the president of the United States, and nothing is sticking. Trump famously expelled the financier around October of 2007, according to the Mar-a-Lago's club registry. And the president has revealed that Jeffrey Epstein was stealing young women who worked at his estate, including Virginia Giuffre. So I think that Epstein was really bitter. I think that he was looking at the success that Donald Trump was having. And when Trump disconnected with him, because Epstein, part of Epstein's deal, because dude was, psychotic. He was a pedo. I mean, I could go on and on. But one of the things was that he liked being around other powerful men. And so when one of the most powerful men in New York at the time, obviously Donald Trump, also very popular as far as pop culture and all of that, when Trump disconnected, then you had Epstein, who was, his ego was hurt because he's driven by a couple of things. Jeffrey Epstein, driven by sex, driven by ego, and driven by money, and driven by power. So when one of his most powerful friends disconnects with him because he's a creeper and he's pilfering the women, the teenagers who worked at Mar-a-Lago, Trump kicked him out. And he was trying to get his revenge on Donald Trump till the day he died. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm not sure why I almost said WNBA there, but I did. Do you know what else I almost did earlier today? Just being totally honest. When I was talking about Sean Duffy, I almost called him Sean Diddy Combs. I don't know. I'm glad it's Friday.
Those two guys could not be further apart.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Listen, all I'm saying is something's happening with my brain, man.
I told you to get the baby oil off the desk there.
I don't think it's Biden brain. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm just glad that it's Friday, and I think everybody else is as well. Stephen A. Smith had this to say to the Democrats about where have they been for the last many years when it comes to the Epstein files.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the Epstein files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration.
Sometimes I just think that who's louder, Stephen A. Smith or Mark Levin?
Ooh.
That's a tough one, isn't it? And listen, here's what I'm going to say. Everything that you're going to hear Stephen A. Smith, conservatives have been saying forever, right? So just because he screams it and he says it louder and he's on the left, he gets a lot of media attention when he comes around to our way of thinking.
You were there for 4 years. How come you didn't open it as a Democratic Party then?
Because they knew there was actually nothing there, Stephen A. Smith. They knew that there's nothing there. Everything that we saw yesterday and today is nothing but innuendo. That's all it is. And there's absolutely no proof.
What am I missing?
Nothing.
I'm not saying I know. It's a legitimate question. Maybe I don't remember the answer. Maybe my extraordinary producers should be able to help me during the commercial break. But
I still think that was a slam on his producers. I think when he said he was talking about his extraordinary producers, he was angry with his producers because they couldn't find any information on all of this. Because that's what some hosts do. Like when I talk about my great producers, I'm really just telling you guys that you're full of crap. I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, no, Dan hates us over here.
No, you guys are a big help. But I think that Stephen A. Smith was serious. I think that he was calling out his producers.
Producers should be able to help me during the commercial break. But from my understanding, the same files that were open or being open now with the 220 pages of documents or whatever it is, with various emails, that could have been done when Biden was in office.
And the Democrats had the House and the Democrats had the Senate. Yep.
Well, why didn't you do it?
Again, because they knew that there was nothing there. They're trying to politicize this now because they're trying to distract from them, the Democrats, shutting down the government.
If it's so important now, What were the Democrats doing at that particular moment in time?
They're trying to throw Donald Trump in prison. It's part of what they were doing.
See? This is the kind of stuff that smells.
It does smell. Stephen A. Smith. Is he finally discovering the stench of the Democrats? Is he finally doing it?
He has these moments where he's like, it should be common sense practice that we get labeled, right-wing extremists for. So I don't know for sure, but I'd find it amusing to see him run for president.
Yeah, I think that, we've talked about this before. I think that him running for president in a primary against other Democrats would be a lot of fun. I think that, him shouting down a Hillary Clinton can you imagine Stephen A. Smith running in a presidential primary, if he's running as a Democrat, against Cory Booker. Can you imagine the two of them yelling at each other? I bet you Stephen A. Smith would make Cory Booker cry.
Oh, easily.
I think that Cory Booker would cry. I think that Jasmine Crockett would try to probably kick him in the you-know-where. I think that, AOC would probably somehow try to play the race card. So I think that would be a lot of fun. I mean, that would be more fun than, watching Donald Trump take on those 16 other presidential hopefuls back when he ran the first time in the primary, when he took out Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. And who else was there? Oh, there's so many people that Mike Pence. I mean, he took out very formidable politicians. And, that was fun to watch. I would love to see Stephen A. Smith run as a Democrat and run specifically in a Democrat primary and take on some of the names that I just mentioned. I would pay to see that.
I think he'd mop the floor with Jasmine Crockett. Apparently, she went on local news yesterday talking about trying to stir up allegations that the Trump administration has obscured the investigation into Epstein.
Obscured the investigation.
Mm-hmm. She's going on the news saying that she doesn't feel like any of the questions are being answered, and neither do her constituents and all that. I've got it queued up to an interesting point if you want to hear it.
Go ahead.
Considering that the president right now is trying to obstruct on some very basics of let's just get a subpoena that says release all the information, I wouldn't be surprised, just like he obstructed the prosecution of one of his henchmen who took $50,000 in taxpayer dollars from undercover officers. I wouldn't be surprised if he sent a message and said, stop investigating. We're done with this. Epstein's dead. I don't want to hear anything else about it.
Do you have any evidence of that claim?
I have no idea. No.
Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh.
She's hilarious.
She's like, throws down all of this thunder, and then she's asked, do you have any evidence? Well, no, I don't have any evidence.
There's 2 minutes of under throwdown thunder before that point, and then the anchor goes, do you have any evidence of that? Well, no, but I want to stir the pot, essentially.
I guess who needs evidence if you're Jasmine Crockett, right? Jasmine Crockett crap. Who needs evidence when you're her? But it's like she thinks that she can just, blink her pterodactyl wings and it's all just, everybody's going to believe her. You know what I mean?
Just like how the Democrats' Twitter, they tweeted out that false claim about Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
People already saw it. People screenshotted it. So they're going to believe it even though it was wrong. And they're not going to come out and take accountability and say, hey, we lied. Because, that's an automatic win for a lawsuit. But
absolutely. In case you missed it, and this probably was in the news yesterday after we left, but the DNC, the official X account of the DNC actually posted that Donald Trump had Thanksgiving dinner with Epstein. What year was it? Was it 2018? 2017.
When he was in office.
Yeah, when Donald Trump is in office. So the DNC accuses Donald Trump in a post of having Thanksgiving dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender.
She also, in this same interview, by the way, this is where she's about to come under fire, says that Donald Trump may be a pedophile. Said it on the air.
She said that on the air.
She said that it's not in this clip because I'm sure the local station doesn't want it being circulated, but it's going around social media right now from last night.
I am going to find that, and I'm going to play it coming up at 8:05 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk.